We are examining the flow of charitable donations directed specifically to developing nations. To track these crucial transfers, we will analyze a distinct 5-year data window, starting in 2006 and ending in 2010. The records divide the contributors into 3 distinct cohorts: the United States, the European Union, and a collective category grouping all other donor countries. Every financial figure we examine will be measured strictly in millions of US dollars. This chart shows the primary macro trend of the dataset. Total global donations experienced a consistent and considerable upward climb throughout the measurement period. This 5-year window demonstrates a robust expansion of global philanthropic capital. To understand exactly how that growth was distributed, we must break down the individual components. As the pulsing marker highlights the dip, there is only one interruption to this overall expansion, a minor temporary setback recorded precisely in the year 2009. By dividing the total volume into our 3 contributor cohorts, a strict comparative hierarchy emerges. The United States maintained its position as the absolute largest contributor, dominating the volume across every single year of the timeline. In contrast, the European Union and the remaining countries contributed vastly smaller amounts, even though both lower-tier cohorts experienced their own gradual upward trajectories. Analyzing the mechanics of this philanthropic era requires separating the overwhelming volume of American capital from the marginal growth generated by the rest of the world. This stacked bar chart represents our starting metrics for the baseline year of 2006. The total combined global donation figure for this initial year stood at exactly $15.7 million. The specific financial contribution of the U.S. accounted for $9.8 million. That single U.S. figure already secured the absolute statistical majority of the entire global total. The European Union cohort provided a fraction of that volume, recording $3.1 million, and the collective Other Countries category contributed $2.8 million. Mathematically, the U.S. baseline figure was more than 3 times the size of the European Union's contribution, and well above the combined total of all other recorded nations. Even at the lowest recorded volume of the timeline, the structural imbalance of global philanthropy was already locked in place by American dominance. Advancing the analytical focus forward by 2 years brings us to the data configuration for 2008. The total global donation amount increased significantly to $24.4 million. This represents a sharp upward climb in total volume compared to the 2006 baseline. The bulk of this growth was driven by an aggressive surge in American contributions, jumping to $17 million. The European Union experienced a distinctly modest rise in comparison, reaching $3.9 million. The Other Countries cohort tracked a similarly modest increase, rising to $3.5 million. These disparate growth rates resulted in a dramatically widened volume gap between the United States and all other nations. The sharp climb in the global total was almost entirely a mathematical consequence of American acceleration, rendering the upward movement of the lower tiers statistically marginal. The timeline then encounters the critical anomaly year of 2009. This contraction did not isolate a single region. It manifested as a slight decline across every single measured category. The total global donation metric fell from its previous peak down to $23.5 million. While the U.S. retained its top position, its overall volume was compromised simultaneously with the EU and the remaining countries. However, the data classifies this dip strictly as a temporary systemic shock rather than a permanent reversal of the broader trajectory. The underlying architecture of global philanthropic growth survived the 2009 contraction intact, priming the system for an immediate recovery. Advancing to the ultimate boundary of our dataset, we reach the year 2010. Total donations fully recovered and broke previous records, peaking at an all-time high of $28.1 million. The overarching structural constant remained unwavering. The United States was the clear, undeniable driving force of global volume. The culminating American contribution maximized at $20.3 million. The final European Union metric topped out at $4.1 million, and the Other Countries cohort closed the measurement window at $3.7 million. The immediate rebound from the preceding contraction resulted in the highest deployment of philanthropic capital recorded within our 5-year frame. This sets the final, defining ratio of the dataset. The American deployment of $20.3 million was roughly 5 times the individual volume of either the EU or the remaining international cohort. Isolating the 2 lower-tier cohorts reveals an independent relationship between the remaining regions. Throughout the entire period, the European Union consistently provided slightly more funding than the collective other countries, but the statistical margin dividing them remained exceptionally narrow. From 2006 to 2010, global philanthropy underwent a massive expansion. That growth was driven singularly by American financial dominance, while the rest of the developed world maintained a steady, distinctly secondary statistical footprint. This video is brought to you by the IELTS FOCUS 084-770-5973.